The disappearance of Aiden Hawthorne. The forgotten pact. Long before the Hawthornes tilled the soil of their humble farm, the land beneath their feet held secrets whispered only in ancient tongues. The forest beyond the fields, known by locals as Brackenwood, was a boundary between worlds. Long ago, mortals and ethereal beings of the Vale forged a pact, a fragile agreement to protect the realms from merging. This harmony endured for centuries, but as time wore on and the memory of the pact faded, so too did the barriers. Few in the village of Brackenwood remembered these stories. Most dismissed the forest's ominous atmosphere and the unexplainable events surrounding it as mere superstition. But the Hawthorne family had unknowingly been the guardians of this fragile balance, bound by blood and fate. The cost of forgetting their legacy would soon prove devastating. The house, though weathered, stood strong against the winds that howled through the open fields. Inside, Callum Hawthorne reigned with a stern but silent presence, his eyes betraying the weight of a past he refused to share. Aiden, now 18, had grown into a young man of quiet strength, his hands calloused from years of labor. Though he carried the responsibilities of the farm with pride, a sense of restlessness stirred within him. The monotony of planting, mending fences, and hauling wood weighed heavily, as if he were meant for something more, but couldn't yet grasp what. Alara, 14, was a stark contrast to her brother. Where Aiden was grounded and practical, Alara was lively and imaginative. She often told tales of a mother who wielded magic and sang to the stars, filling the void left by Callum's silence. "You ever wonder what's beyond the forest, Aiden?" Alara asked one evening as they sat by the hearth. She poked at the fire, her eyes alight with curiosity. "Not much, probably," Aiden replied. "More trees, more work." Alara frowned. "You don't believe in the stories, do you?" "Stories don't plow fields, Alara. They don't keep the roof over our heads." Callum, sitting in his usual chair, finally spoke. "The forest is no place for dreams. Keep to the farm and you'll stay safe." The finality in his tone silenced them both, but it left questions unspoken. Why was Callum so fearful of the forest? And what secrets did he keep locked away in his heart? Chapter 2. The Demon of Brackenwood. The villagers of Brackenwood whispered about the demon long before Aiden was born. It was said to be a monstrous being, its form shifting like smoke, with eyes that burned like coals in the darkness. Farmers found their livestock torn apart, their fields marked with deep, unnatural grooves as if the earth itself had been clawed. On the rare full moon, the disappearances began. At first, it was hunters who ventured too deep into the woods. Then it was children, taken from their homes without a sound. The only clue was the faint scent of sulfur lingering in the air. Despite his dismissal of legends, Aiden had seen the evidence with his own eyes. Deep claw marks gouged the stones, as though some immense creature had passed through. "Must have been a bear," one villager said, his voice trembling. But Aiden knew better. Chapter 3. The Melody and the Glade. One crisp autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Aiden stood at the edge of the farm, repairing a broken section of fence. The forest loomed before him, its shadows lengthening with the fading light. That was when he heard it, a melody, faint and haunting. At first, he thought it was the wind, but the sound was too deliberate, too otherworldly. The notes wrapped around him, pulling him toward the tree line. "Aiden, supper's ready." Startled, Aiden looked back at the house. He hadn't realized how close he'd come to the forest. The melody faded, but its echo lingered in his mind. Chapter 4. The First Step. That night, As the harvest moon cast its silver light over the fields, Aiden lay in bed, unable to sleep. The melody returned, stronger now, calling to him like a siren song. He rose quietly, careful not to wake Alara or Callum, and slipped out of the house. The forest seemed alive as he entered, its trees arching over him like cathedral pillars. In its center stood a figure, a fairy no taller than his waist, its wings shimmering like moonlight. "Aiden Hawthorne," the fairy said, its voice a harmony of tones. "You are the one we have awaited." Before Aiden could respond, the ground beneath him shifted. He fell, tumbling through darkness until he landed in a realm unlike anything he had ever imagined. Chapter 5. The Veil. The Veil was a place of surreal beauty. Rivers of liquid light flowed upward, and the air shimmered with colors that defied description. Trees with crystalline trunks stretched toward a sky that bent and folded, as if reality itself were malleable. "You are in the Veil," the fairy explained, hovering beside him. "A realm between worlds, where the balance of all things is maintained." Aiden marveled at the wonders around him, but quickly realized the veil was as dangerous as it was beautiful. Shadows moved where there should be none, and whispers filled the air, their words incomprehensible but filled with malice. The fairy led him to a group of luminous beings, the keepers of the veil. They explained that a rift had formed, allowing a fragment of the pit's darkness to escape into the mortal world. This fragment was the demon that plagued Brackenwood. "The rift must be sealed," one keeper said, its voice resonating like a bell. "But the darkness will not yield easily." Chapter 6. Training and Allies. Over the following nights, Aiden returned to the Veil, where the keepers trained him in the ways of their realm. They taught him to harness its energy, using it to enhance his strength and perception. He learned to navigate its shifting landscapes and to defend himself against the shadowy creatures that lurked within. Alara, suspicious of her brother's late-night disappearances, eventually followed him into the forest. When she discovered the veil, she insisted on joining his quest. Despite his protests, the keepers allowed her to stay, recognizing a hidden potential within her. Back in the mortal world, Aiden gained an unexpected ally in Corwin, a reclusive hunter obsessed with the demon. Corwin had spent years studying its movements and possessed a trove of knowledge about its habits and weaknesses.